All right, so let's jump into topic 2. We're going to revisit a topic from last week. Let's talk about Suicide Squad killed the Justice League again. I know you're like, what? It's only been a week. Why are we talking about this some more? I wanted to talk a little bit more about my thoughts and feelings about Suicide Squad now that I finished the game. As of recording yesterday, I finished the story, beat it all the way through, and I'm now kind of in that post-game area of more freedom and what you can do. So I wanted to talk about the story beats, how I thought the story was going overall, or how it went overall rather, and then what this post-game stuff means, how fun it is, and talk more on that side. So there will be spoilers here. We're going to go right into it. So if you don't want to know about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League story, here's your point to leave. Come back at your leisure. You can check this out. But yeah, so finishing the campaign yesterday, I still stand by the fact that in terms of a visual and storytelling, I think Rocksteady did a great job with this one as well. I don't think it's their best story in compared to the Arkham series, but I think, I think the journey we went on was pretty good. And the ending, it falls a little flat. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in depth later on. But the journey that we went on with the squad here and going against the Justice League, I think was fun. I think it was exciting. And I think the boss battles, especially against Batman and Superman, were really engaging and felt like, oh, okay, we're in it now. In terms of a campaign length, this one was definitely shorter. If you were to streamline everything and really, pedal to the metal, gun it, I think this is like 8 to 10 hours overall. Not bad. Not saying that's a bad thing. It just feels like those big story moments, as we talked about with our last week's review, they feel far and few between. And I say far in terms of what you feel as a player. It doesn't take you like, it takes you 2 hours to get between this really cool story point and then the next cool story point. But in terms of feel of what you're doing in between those points, sometimes it can feel a little, I don't know if daunting is the right word, but it feels like it lacks because those middle portions, and I think I said this last week, sometimes aren't super engaging. I have enjoyed this game a lot more since I've stopped streaming it. I don't know if that's just like the content's not super engaging, or it's kind of like that. I talked about it a few weeks ago, or maybe months ago at this point, like Borderlands. Like, it's a fun game, but sometimes you need something that you can kind of turn your brain off to and just zone out to it. And I think this game is that zone out type game. And in terms of a stream perspective, it wasn't like, this is engaging enough for a stream atmosphere where we can talk about what's going on. I can keep actively talking about what's going on. Where are we going? What's this? What's that? This feels more like turn your brain off, just kill some time, enjoy your time with it, and not be super in-depth, at least in those in-between moments. When you hit those cinematic moments, that's where I'm like, this is really cool. I'm enjoying the story they're telling, and I'm really enjoying the character interactions once again in between one another. Once again, I think this is all repeating what I said last week, but just want to elaborate on that a little bit more. So like I said, the Batman fight, very, very cool. We get to see him use more of the fear toxin, as we kind of learned with Arkham Knight, as that was the path he was going post finishing Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight himself. We get to experience that and fight him in that kind of realm. And then the Superman fight, I don't know if it was just me, a little tough and engaging, which it should be. It's fucking Superman. They had good reasoning or good explanation of how you were able to fight Superman. We were able to use some gold kryptonite, laced bullets and weaponry, and have the gold kryptonite like all around us, not a full armor set. It looked goofy. They just had like different stones like taped literally and tucked away in different articles of clothing. But his fight, I would say, was probably the most fun. He's zipping around. He's, picking up different objects that are smashing you. At one point, he's like trying to make himself stronger by bringing the planet closer to the sun by smashing it down. That one was a lot of fun. Like I said, had some difficulties with it, just in terms of like me avoiding certain attacks. Not anything impossible, just the typical difficulty elevation you would expect in your games, that curve up. Really enjoyed that fight, thought that was good. The ending, like I said, it kind of falls apart. And not falls apart of like this is awful, like other games we've talked about in the past, but just in terms of like, oh, that's a little bit of a letdown. So they set up this premise with Lex Luthor from Earth 2. Now, going into this, we knew Elseworlds was going to be a thing, or this multi-universal thing is going on, right? Because that's how we're going to get other characters like the Joker coming forward. It's a different Joker from a different universe. I know, all these parallel universes, multiverses stuff happening right now. It's a lot. But we learn from Lex 2 that Brainiac is working with other Brainiacs to completely take over all of the universes. Okay, great, swell. So our Brainiac is apparently working with 12 other Brainiacs, and our mission now is obviously expanded from defeating Brainiac to defeating all 12 of the Brainiacs. So in my head, as I was playing this, I'm like, oh, okay, we're just, the story is kind of expanding a little bit. I thought we were wrapping up. We're going to fight Brainiac, and that was going to be kind of it. And you do some lead up, some prep missions as you do, to jump over to Earth 2, where Lex was, and fight that Brainiac. All right, you jump there. The missions are actually really, really fun. I mean, it's, you generic shooting around, avoiding stuff, escort type thing. But I thought it was really engaging because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of enemies. At this point, you're really comfortable with the trajectory of your heroes and your mobility, your traversal. So you're like zipping around, you're shooting everybody. I'm having a great time with Deadshot, zoom into the jetpack, fly over here, throw a grenade, blah, 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 go over to this group, do the thing. Like, it feels great because at this point you've put the time into it and it feels like everything meshes really, really well. And it's fun. You get to the Brainiac fight after 2 final prep missions on Earth 2. You have like a 30-minute timer to do both of those missions and get to Brainiac. Never had a problem with the timer. I think you can mess with the difficulty if you want. Higher difficulty you do, better loot you do, or rather you get. I was just going normal difficulty, so I didn't have any problems with the time here. But you get to Brainiac, and he does this whole, evil monologue, ha ha ha. And he's like, I can meld or use the powers of those I've absorbed through the technology and use it for myself. So he essentially becomes the Flash. And it's just like a rehash of the Flash fight you had, I don't know, towards the beginning, halfway through the game. And you do it, and you're like, oh, well, that was it. No, like, stage 2, no bigger escalation of the fight. He's relatively easy to beat in comparison to the Superman fight, I felt. So you capture him, and Waller and Lex want him alive so they can get into his data network, whatever. So you bring him there, and you think you kill him first, which the team has a great stuff about that. They're like, oh crap, we ruined it. But he's fine, and you get the data from him, and you learn, yeah, okay, now we got to take care of the other 12. And the game ends there. That's technically the ending. They're like, great, you did that. And the team's all like chipper of like, yeah, we did it, cool thing. And yeah, it just ends. And I can understand why it ended that way, but in terms of just like a campaign in itself, it just fell flat. Now, the reason they're doing this is the live service aspect of the game. They've already announced that they're going to do DLC, and it's free DLC. So let's take that with a grain of salt. Like, hey, a win, And they have 4 seasons at least right now that are announced. First one's Joker and, 3 others. And with each of those, we're going to be able to go to a different Earth, and you get different loot that you can do and different cosmetics items that you can unlock, all that jazz. It seems like this is how they are keeping this or adding to this live service element, is every season you will be able to go to a different Elseworld, multiverse, parallel universe, whatever you want to call it, this other Earth, tackle that Earth's Brainiac that's invading, and then so on and so forth as the content comes out. Now, I'm curious how this is all going to work out. The first season starts in March, allegedly. Are we just getting one world, one Brainiac per DLC? Or is the 4 the maximum and you're going to get 3? I think that's how that math would work out, right? Yeah. And go from there. I'm curious how engaging this is going to be. Because you got to assume, right? After all 12, or all that content is out, if you beat all 12, you get the quote-unquote true ending, right? Now, there's 2 ways you can go about it. Play it as it comes out, wait till the end and play it there. I'm curious in terms of keep playing it as they come out. Is it going to be engaging enough to continuously play this throughout this time? Now, if it's one moon, one Brainiac, one universe per season, and, high hopes, we get a season each month, that's a year of content, which, games are doing all the time now, I guess, if you really think about, like, all different battle passes, like a Fortnite, a Call of Duty, a Halo, stuff like that. I guess isn't that bad. It's just one of those things that makes you scratch your head, be like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Is it going to be fun for me, though, to do this the whole time? And I don't know if that audience is there. Obviously, the internet's been really against this game for a while, even before it coming out, just because it's live service stuff. I think the internet's been a little harsh. Like, if it doesn't click with you, it doesn't click with you. That's totally fine. I don't think this game is awful. It's just that weird, it's too, I think I talked about it last week, it's two good games that just don't mesh really well, or two good aspects of games that don't mesh really well. Yeah, I'm curious how this content rollout will go. Now, could you wait till the end? Yeah, absolutely, and then get your true ending. And maybe that's the more beneficial thing to do for you in terms of fun factor. It's just like, will anybody think about it then if they do that? Like, if you decide to set this to the side in a year's time, are you going to think, oh yeah, you know what I should go back to Suicide Squad? Or are you going to be wrapped up with, I don't know, whatever else is next down the road? I doubt it, but like a Death Stranding 2 and like other big titles that you've been looking forward to. I'm not sure. I'm going to give it a chance. Like I said, I am enjoying my time with it. Like, I can't lie there. I think I played 5-6 hours yesterday going through the end of the story and a little bit past. Like, I am enjoying it as one of those things, click, turn the brain off, and just go. It's going to be interesting to see how that gameplay loop continues and goes in between seasons, and once the new seasons come out, what new stuff they allow us to do, or what new missions are they engaging? Is the Battle Pass content worthy enough of your time and engaging there? We'll have to see. Right now, for me, I think my main motivation for playing is, you guys, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know I like trophies. This is something I'm like, yeah, I think I could do the trophies for this, and I'm going to go for the platinum. So that's what's driving me right now. It's going to be one of those things like, after I reach that point, is it going to be continuous? Is it going to keep engaging me enough to keep putting my time into it? And I guess that's something I can move on to now, and talking about having finished the game is post-game content. So once you finish the story, there's still a few things you can do in terms of the main story. Not really, but throughout you get these side quests for your support squad. So Penguin, Hack, Toyman, Gizmo, and more, where occasionally they'll give you missions that will open up pretty much kind of like benefits for you. So for like Hack, different contracts that you can take on to get more resources, experience. Penguin gets you different weapon vendors. Gizmo improves the cars that you can use if you decide to use those. So once the main story's done, you still have 3, 5, something like that. Sorry, I completed some of them, so some of them are already checked off. You still have a few of those support squad missions that you can do, so that's one thing. But then they open up the gameplay loop for you, where you can go after this loot and infamy sets for the different multiverses that you have unlocked. So you jump in, you do these specific missions that are a little bit more difficult, and you can scale up the difficulty for it to try and get this loot in that different universe. So for this first one that they have here, they have Finite Crisis is what they're calling that world. It's like Bane, or not armor sets, but Bane weaponry that you can unlock. I believe they have more. Let me check right here for a second. So yeah, most of it's Bane, but there's like Hugo Strange has a weapon, Two-Face has a weapon, and stuff like that. But mostly it's Bane stuff that you can get. And depending on the tier of difficulty you're at, you can get different loot. So it's just that kind of chasing that stuff. There's different modifiers and mutators, so if you want to make it more difficult on top of the difficulty level, you can do that. So this could be a fun experience, especially if you're playing with a party or some friends. That could be something fun that you could jump into, do some runs or whatever you want to call it. So they have that content available to you. They still, on the main planet as well, have a few things that you can do in terms of just like experience for your characters and other missions that get you the resources to do the Elseworld missions. So this resource, which I don't remember what it's called, Prometheum, something with a P, but you need like X amount of that resource to then buy your way into some of the Elseworld infamy set type missions. It's nothing you have to buy like real world money. It's just something you earn. So it's like that grinding, like, oh, I need 1,000. Okay. And so far the missions have been very generous of like big numbers. So it's not like, oh my God, this is going to take 8 years to do. You run in, you do a mission real quick. You probably have a third of your currency, if not more, to go into there. So yeah, it's engaging in terms of difficulty. I think that will be good. But yeah, does the loot, I guess, is that enough of enticement to keep going for this? We'll have to see. So yeah, final thoughts. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, treating it more of that like turn your brain off, just kind of go in for the fun. I've definitely enjoyed my time more with that. And yeah, just curious how the the DLC content will roll out, and two, how engaging it will be in order to continue to get to that true ending at the end. Like, I'm intrigued because I want to know, because it felt so flat just finishing off Brainiac and be like, oh, there's still more story. It didn't feel satisfying, and I have that morbid curiosity of like, okay, what is that ending? But they're going to have to earn it. If things are fun and it's engaging enough, it doesn't have to be cinema, but if it's good enough, then I'll be on for the ride. But yeah, other than that, I could probably just be like, nope, got what I needed out of Suicide Squad, check the box. I don't need to be around for the rest of this. So I definitely would put this towards the lower part of Rocksteady stuff. Happy they did it. Happy they, messed around with a new gameplay style and did what they wanted to do. Once again, visually looks great. The characters are very well done, and in terms of like voice acting and the portrayals, they did fantastic. Yeah, just hope for a little bit more, I guess, in terms of substance and in betweens. But yeah, just figured I'd give my one more thoughts on Suicide Squad as I wrapped up the game. But yeah. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can check this podcast out live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You could drop a follow over there. You join on the fun and conversation with us if you'd like as we record. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, as it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, there's a follow button, a sub button right there, wherever you may be watching or listening. If you'd hit that, it seems small, but it has helped the channel grow, so we'd love and appreciate you for it. Thanks for hanging out today, guys, for all this video game chat. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.